Thank you, Tamara. I didn't think we'd fill this room, actually. When we came to book this place, we were debating whether we should take a place as full as this. But thank you so much for making it. For the people who made the effort to dress African, you look lovely. For those who didn't, you're not coming for the cocktail. But thank you, everyone. I mean, it's been a long journey for us to get here, and one that's been totally worth it. And I'm really glad to be here today to share this day with you. I'm the CEO at AVPA, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today. So I'm going to try and get this clicker to work. Okay, there you go. Right. So I thought, should I write a speech? But then I thought, I want people to remember what I say. And so I'm a big believer that people remember more what they see as well, more than just what they hear. And this continent is as important to me as it is to you, so I thought, let's make this a bit of a meaningful session. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of different things. But before I go any further, the first thing I want to do is, first of all, just say thank you. Thank you to everyone who's here today. Thank you to people who've been with us when you were nothing and unknown, the point of where we are today. We do not take your time and patience with us for granted. I want to say thank you to our partners, people who funded us when we were just an idea on paper. The Yellowwoods of this world, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, thank you. I want to say thank you to the people who took a chance with us when we had no programs, but we saw a need that was worth fulfilling, and they funded us to do something. The Oppenheimer family, thank you. I want to say thank you to the board who help us and steer us in the right direction. And I'm going to introduce some of my board members, actually my board members to you. And it's good that the joy of being a young organization is that there's a good range of history in that board. So for starters, two of my board members were actually here when AVPA started. Paul and Julio, can you stand up, please? Please remain standing. Please remain standing. Paul, on the far right, made the first trip to Africa to find out if it was worth doing anything around AVPA. Julio is the only African who speaks Spanish. His Kiswahili is as good as his Spanish, by the way, so please engage him at some point tonight. Okay? So Paul and Julio, we appreciate the fact that you've been here for more than 5 years, from birth to now. Thank you very much. A couple of years ago, we made a decision that we had to look at the gender equality and diversity of our board, and we brought in some really powerful women. I want to please introduce Ua from Nigeria. And I want to introduce Florenza from Mozambique. In absentia, I also want to recognize Ali, Ganila, and Lorraine, who will not make it today. But 5 of our board members are female who, and trust me, they're tough women. Thank you. Okay. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the other board members here. Patrick Paring, who's from Cape Town, hosting us today. Patrick also chairs our Southern Africa board. I want to recognize Joe Gutu, who's from Kenya. Okay. Joe Gutu is also just recently retired, Joe, haven't you? Yeah. He's also the chairman of probably the 2 biggest foundations in East Africa, Safaricom and M-Pesa Foundation. They've done some phenomenal work in that part of the world. So please, if you get time with Joe, please talk to him. And last but not least, I want to introduce my chairman, Dutun Suleiman. Okay. Dotun is the second chairman at AVPA, and I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the other founding members who are not here, the likes of Pat Pillay, Yemi Cardoso, just to tell them thank you. Alex, who's a big key part of this, Alejandro, Doug Miller, without whom this idea of the Venture Philanthropy Network would not have been born. So thank you. All protocol duly observed. Okay, so why are we here? The thing that makes us different and passionate is that something insane about us makes us run to problems, not away from them. That sets us apart from any other type of investors you may find. Okay? But they're daring problem that we've got to pay a lot of attention to. And this is something we've got to keep talking about. How do we fall in love with the problem that we're trying to solve, not our solutions? Okay? Some big things are changing on the continent that we have to pay attention to. Aid to Africa, that has been a foundation of this continent's growth in the last 50 years, is declining. Trump, the UK government have all cut aid to Africa. In fact, it's gone down faster than US global giving has grown. Okay? We cannot build a continent on a declining source of funding. Youth unemployment, arguably one of our biggest risks. Average age of 19 compared to the US, maybe 42, Europe maybe 44, Japan at 51. We're bringing 1 million people into the job market every month. We should be creating that 1 million jobs. Instead of doing 12 a year, we're only doing 3 million jobs a year. Let me translate what that means for you, by the way. That means that every hour we should be creating 1,300 jobs on the continent. Every hour. We're only doing 300 at the moment. The 1,000 people that we cannot employ is equivalent to us saying that we might as well go to a school, a primary school with 1,000 kids, and close it. And tell those kids there's no future for you. We should be closing a primary school every hour on this continent, unless we fix that problem. We are only on track to meet 2 of the 17 SDGs. Study we did in 2020 showed us that. Our education system is still unfit for purpose. As we build the human capital to drive this continent, we're still producing job seekers, not job creators. It's insane that you have to go to Oxford to find an MBA that teaches as a module on impact investing, as Oni will tell you. Yet in Africa, where we need impact training more, there's not a single MBA program that I know of that's an impact module training. It's insane. Our business leaders are coming out of school not having a sense of how to tackle social issues on this continent. Okay? Growing public debt. There's almost no country in Africa that does not have a problem with debt at the moment. And we are facing a huge issue with climate. Not because we're big contributors. In fact, Africa contributes only 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, of which 2% is South Africa, and 1% is ESCOM. Okay? So our issues are a lot more around climate adaptation. And how do we play in the intersection of climate and health, climate and gender, climate and education, so on and so forth. So to that end, we are facing about $500 billion to $1.3 trillion of SG financing gap. Where are we going to get money to fund our progress? Aid to Africa is roughly about $40 billion. If you look at startup funding, it's about $5.3 billion. By the way, Africa is the only continent where you have more aid than you have venture capital. Something's not right. We cannot create jobs when we are still depending on that much on grants. Diaspora giving is at $100 billion now. It's 2 times aid. So we turn and we look at capital markets and say, how can we tap in the capital markets where the quantum is enough to sort out not just Africa's needs, but global needs? But the private capital players look at the social sector and they think it's too risky, we don't understand it, we can't make money. But increasingly, more and more studies are showing us that profit and purpose are not mutually exclusive. That you can make money as you do good. And if you've read the study from Standard Chartered called Opportunities 2030, you'll see within those 5 countries, within those 3 SDGs, which is water, energy, and infrastructure, we have about $150 billion of investment opportunities, which give investors opportunities to make money as they do good. But for that to happen, and to be done at the speed and scale that we require, we've got to have philanthropy play a different role. Philanthropic players have to put and make available a lot more catalytic capital that can take the risk to de-risk some of these investments and crowd in private capital. Without that equation happening, we're in trouble. But we also have to explore what else is uniquely African. How else can Africans help themselves with what they do in their day-to-day living. And one of the things we're looking at is we're going to be working very soon with the African Diaspora Network out of the US to look at diaspora savings, not remittances, savings. Okay? And how can those savings be driven into the impact space of the continent? Faith-based giving. Kenyans give $90 million to the church every Sunday. Can you imagine what Nigerians do? Those guys probably solve the Ukraine-Russian war and everything else every Sunday. Okay? But those of us who are older, we grew up with mission hospitals, mission schools. You don't see those anymore today. Yet the people who attend church religiously and tithe every Sunday are young unemployed people. Can the church become a seed investor, early stage investor in entrepreneurial activities by young people? And with innovative instruments like convertible grants, convertible debts, we can look at how those can be turned into investment opportunities that don't totally make the church lose money. We're also working to see how we steer private wealth into the impact space. And that's why tomorrow, we're launching Africa's Family Offices Initiative. I also want to say thank you to the family officers who are here, who've taken the plunge to be with us in this fast going around trying to mobilize family officers. I want to thank Bridget from Oxford, with whom we're partnering under the ownership project on this initiative. So I'm super excited about what we could do with that. But we need to do a bit of fact-checking and just looking at ourselves and what are the things we need to change. When people talk to you about aid, please push back. It's just not enough. We cannot do this alone. Whether you're a high net worth individual or a government, a foundation, collaboration is more important today than ever before. Okay? SDGs are a responsibility of the development sector. That mindset has to shift. When the virus came, it didn't choose the private sector and social development sector, no. It finished all of us. Black Lives Matter is another crisis that showed us that these things don't choose. Collective responsibility is an important part of what we do. Profit and purpose are mutually exclusive is a foregone myth. You can do well as you do good. Okay? The fact that people think that the development sector can only consume grants. And that's why we're stuck with organizations that have been in communities for 30 years. And they proudly tell you we've been here for 30 years. And I think, what are you doing for 30 years? Solve the problem and exit. Okay? Let the people you're helping help themselves. Okay? And increasingly, sustainability is driven by profitable models that need to drive the motion that profit in social development is not a sin. You can make money without being exploitative. Creating affordable services, good quality services for people is important, and that's very possible. Okay? This one I want to talk to especially people coming from outside, and more so DFIs and aid agencies. We love you to bring your money, and thank you so much. Thank you, no, honestly, really thank you. But don't just come and do in Africa, come and enable us as well. So that when you leave us better than when you find us. And dependence is not what success looks like. When you find an aid agency, a DFI and an ODA aid agency from the same country coming to collaborate on a project, and there's not an African sitting around the table to understand how that project works so that when you exit, we can carry forward the benefits of the project, that is not right. And we have to be championing for seats on the table around some of these conversations. It's not acceptable. But to the Africans in the room, impact capital comes from Africans. That mindset has to change from foreigners. We've got to have skin in the game. We've got to stand up and be counted and drive a lot more local capital into these initiatives. We've lived the problem, we've got to live the solution. We've got to change this mindset that anything around impact, the other people to deal with, not us. We're just recipients. That has to change. So, what am I asking you guys to do? I'm asking you guys to be constructively and collaboratively impatient. Okay? We have no time to go slowly. We have no time. Others, those cars you're driving today, if we can't create jobs for young people, will not be safe for you anymore. We have no time. And so I'm asking of you, please, the most important thing, let's all grow together as impact players. Let's learn to unlearn and relearn. Solutions are changing by the day. Don't just talk, execute. And it's more important to get started than to get it perfect. Too many times we want to analyze over and over again. Innovate, okay? I always tell people Africa is a sandbox for impact in the world, okay? We are blessed with opportunities. You know, this is when someone comes to your house and tells you it's time to go wash your hands. When you're eating, people must let you eat and finish your food. Etemero, I hear you, I'm sorry, I'll be done in a bit. I always tell people we are blessed with what 20 years ago were embarrassing problems are exciting impact opportunities today. No one has the kind of opportunities to test new models, new products, new services than we do. My vision is 10 years from today, the Ivy League of impact should be Africa. No one is better placed than we are to do that. Okay? Leave egos and logos out. Let's work together. Let's do it better. Challenge tradition. The minute you're in a meeting and someone says, that's not how we do it here, time out. Okay? And lastly, we need to keep talking about gatherings like this. I think are very important for us to move forward. Our commitment to you is very simple. We'll do our best to help you connect to each other. Sessions like this are the beginning of what that will mean to your peers across regions, to your peers globally. For those who don't know, we're part of a full global network that includes networks in Asia, Latin America, and Europe. We have Kurt here from AVPA who's joined us. And part of our job is to see how can we help Africa learn better and faster from other regions. We'll help you, we'll help you learn. We're all learning. And I keep saying, and Oni who is probably one of the most informed people in impact in this part of the world and, you know, teaches in big schools, will appreciate the fact that she's always doing research and adding more stuff because we're all learning in this space. We don't know enough yet, you know, to be able to claim to be giants. And we shall offer you what we can in terms of supporting your growth. Now, this clicker, it's not my fault. We have to look at how we offer opportunities for you to influence what you're coming up with. There's a lot of innovation happening in this room. How do you help more people learn from what you're doing, and how do you scale what innovations are coming out? I also want to take an opportunity to announce that with the 4 other sister networks, we've just created the Global Alliance for Impact Networks. This is a network of our sister partners to try and see how we can accelerate mobilization of capital, and we're already looking to invest as soon as we possibly can. And this is my ask to you, okay? Please join us. This is your network. It's not just ours. And let's learn together, let's grow together. But most importantly, as I said, let's make Africa global capital. And in closing, constructively, collaboratively, impatient. Accelerate and reshape how we do this as you go to bed every day. And when you talk to your kids and on your deathbed, would that matter? Would that matter on your deathbed? What is the privilege that people around you know for what you've got and what you're contributing? Would that matter? Thank you.